Today I am back talking about arguments, and not the difference of opinion argument, but supposed logical arguments. It's what you get when you ask theists why they think a God exists. Granted, they will tell you the so-called evidence is obvious, duh, just like, look around, can't you see it? Maybe your sin is blinding you, you filthy heathen. Did you think of that? It's right there. But also, they savor the intellectual flavor of arguments for God. So I've got two for you today because these yahoos can't write a blog without multiple arguments. And today, we've got another argument for morality and an interesting take on the Kalam. Yeah, we're doing all that again. Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I'm an atheist and skeptic, and initially I thought I would just deal with the arguments on their own. You know, just the raw premises and the conclusion, and talk about why I don't accept arguments for God. But then I fired up my search engine and found different apologist takes, and seeing how they perceive and present the premises was just, mwah, chef's kiss. You know what I'm saying? So here's another blog. We all remember blogs. We love blogs. You know, it's YouTube without the dumb voices. You'll thank me for not making you listen to the voice. Because today we are going over to Greg Koukl's Stand to Reason. Yeah, the dude's everywhere. He's got this blog. He's on YouTube. He's probably on TikTok. You know, isn't everybody except me? The blog post in question was published on April 1st, 2020. April Fool's Day? Really? Alright. It's listed under the category of philosophy, lol, and the title is, What are the most powerful arguments for the existence of God? I really do dig the image. I loves me a good cathedral, but this kind of looks like it's Catholic or maybe Catholic light, like Anglican or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm not an expert, but it just doesn't seem like it's the flavor of Greg Koukl's religion. Whatever, I guess it just looks like the grandeur of God, right? Since I was over there on the blog, I kind of got interested in Greg's bio, and I thought I'd point out a couple of things that I found interesting. The first being that Koukl has been advocating for Christianity worth thinking about. I mean, if that doesn't make you snicker, I don't know what does. Also, I love this. He has debated atheist Michael Shermer on national radio. The inclusion of that little detail in this bio really is interesting to me. Like, wow, Koukl must be really brave to go face the atheist on television. And finally on this section, Koukl actually includes this sentence that he's an award-winning writer and best-selling author. I mean, that is just so pretentious. I did look it up. He's won a couple of awards for his Christian writings, but this makes it sound specifically like his writing is that good, and that's not what it's about. I don't know. I just find this very pretentious to put in your bio that you are award-winning and best-selling. Even if it's true, it seems like you would rather say, has won these awards, and then people know what exactly you did. This, I don't know. It just seems like he's puffing himself up, I guess, is my point here. And then I was kind of interested in his education, and it looks like Koukl received a master's in philosophy of religion and ethics at Talbot School of Theology, graduating with high honors. I love that. I love that he has to keep puffing up, like, look how smart I am. And his master's in Christian apologetics with honors from Simon Greenleaf University. He's also an adjunct professor in Christian apologetics at Biola University. And I guess I'm just reading this now so that we know that this is the water that Greg swims in. He hasn't done like straight philosophy. He's done all of this religious philosophy and apologetics, which is a very different animal. Just kind of tells you where he's coming from in all this. Since you can hire him out to speak, he gives you a little taste of what that looks like. And oh wow, who bears the burden of proof? Gee, I wonder who Koukl thinks bears the burden of proof. You know, no prizes for that guess. So anyway, that's a little about the person we're dealing with. You know, you've probably seen him on YouTube, but maybe you didn't know these little biographical details, and I find that all very, very interesting. Before I finish up the introductory blibbity-blab, I just want to point out that I like to look at this biographical info because it tells me a lot about who the person is. One of the times I did this was on that guy that works for Trinity something or other. Somebody accused me of poisoning the well. And I'm not trying to poison the well. I really am just trying to say, who is the person that we're dealing with today? What is their education? What do they say about themselves? What does how they say inform us about who that person is? So, take all of this with a grain of salt and don't allow the well to be poisoned if you think it is. The fact that I think that somebody is trained in apologetics and that that's not really worth much in my mind in terms of becoming a good critical thinker, maybe you have a different opinion. But anyway, we are going to look at the arguments, and the fact that he did this or that or another thing is not going to color what we think about what he did. Because we already know what he does, not great. Not great. All right, there's the blibbity blab. Let's get on to our arguments, which today, again, argument from morality and argument from cosmology. So we start out. The following was originally published here as part of a Q&A with Greg Koukl on RZIM Connect. I have no idea what that is. We're not looking it up, but we're going to go on. Question from Marvin. What are the top most powerful arguments for the existence of God? And if there's a logical order in which we should present them? The second half of this question doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Syntactically, it's off because of the if that's there. There should be a new question or something like that. And I'm not sure why it needs to be a logical order. Maybe Koukl will elucidate for us. So we're off to Koukl's answer. Marvin, this one is fairly easy for me since I have two favorites I think are relatively easy to follow and are really powerful evidences for God. Is it just me or is anybody else bothered by the pluralizing of evidence? It's just evidence. It's a mass noun. It's not supposed to be made plural. You have a body of evidence. You have pieces of evidence. That's a losing fight on my part. Let's go see what Koukl says. Let me introduce the first one, my favorite, with a question. What is the most frequently raised objection against theism of any sort? If you answer the problem of evil, you'd be right. There's a reason for this. There is one thing every person knows, no matter where he lived or when he lived. Everyone knows the world is broken. Things are not the way they're supposed to be. That's the complaint. And they don't simply mean that things happen they don't like. That's relativism. They mean there really are evil, wicked things that take place, parens objectivism. So for starters, I have to point out that this is not the problem of evil that people posit. The problem of evil is not a defeater for all gods. It is a defeater specifically for the Christian God who is said to be all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving. If he is those three things, then why do people suffer? It's not just about the fact that people do bad things to each other. It is about the fact that there are all kinds of things that hurt humans, and that includes natural disasters and illnesses and everything. If God is all-powerful, he could have chose a universe that we wouldn't have suffered. If he was all-loving, he would want us not to suffer, or he would explain to us why we're suffering, or something different than what's happening. That's the problem of evil. If there is this triomni God, why is there evil in the sense of bad things, people doing bad things, and also just suffering, bad things happening in general? Now, this thing that Koukl says here, that every person knows that the world is broken, I don't know that. I don't feel that the world is broken. I don't know that things were once correct and now they are broken like a glass smashed on the floor. To me, this is just the way the world works. Stuff happens. From an atheist point of view, with nobody controlling all of this, we live in a world where people sometimes do bad things for various reasons, maybe self-interested reasons, maybe out of greed, that kind of thing. It's also a world with active geological and meteorological phenomena, which means that natural disasters happen that harm people. That's it. That doesn't mean the world is broken. This is the way the world works. It's not broken. So I don't know this. And that there are evil, wicked things. Now, I would like a little bit more clarification because a lot of times when Christians talk, I think they're thinking of evil in a reified sort of way, like a spirit or the devil or something, like it is a thing and not a descriptor. And I want to make sure that we're on the same page about this. But the fact that there are people who do bad things that harm people in terrible ways, that they are cruel, that doesn't mean the world is broken. So right off the bat, I'm not on board with the way Koukl is talking. Yeah, I'm going between saying Koukl and Koukl. I hope that's I want to say kooky all the time, but So whatever, it's his name, Greg. Maybe I should just say Greg. I don't know. All right, that's all we're going to say on this because we're not even really up to the argument. Koukl writes, since this awareness is universal, it's an obvious and undeniable feature of reality. We can use it as an ally to make our case for God. Contrary to popular belief, the problem of evil is not a good argument against God. It's actually one of the best arguments for God. The problem with the problem of evil is that if God does not exist, there can be no real evil to object to. Here's why, and it's a period, and I think that should be a colon. That's just me. But okay, so once again, this awareness is universal. It isn't. I am not aware of this. I am not aware of a broken world in which these quote-unquote evil things are happening, especially the way he goes on to talk about this at the end of the paragraph. Not universal. Really tiresome that there are these Christian apologists who take whatever their insights are and assume that everybody else feels that way. And of course, if you say, I don't, there's something wrong with you, it's usually sin. So for Koukl, this problem of evil is not a good argument against God. It's an argument for God because that's how we know there's real evil. And this is one of the things that bothers me. For me, evil is not, let's say, a real object in the world, as in a material object or even sort of like an immaterial spirit or anything like that. Evil is an adjective that describes behavior. For a long time, I didn't even like to use the word evil because it's so associated with religiosity. But I've come to think that sometimes there are people that do some things that are so cruel and with such utter disregard for the harm that they cause that we could apply the label evil. But there's no like evil that you can point to. There isn't a platonic form of evil. There isn't a spirit. There's no devil. Evil is a word that we apply to certain actions, like we would say that an action is good or helpful or any of these adjectives that only exist as descriptors. All right, let's go on to see why. The complaint about evil itself requires transcendent universal laws that govern the world. Objective morality, in order for real evil to exist, is a violation of those laws. Transcendent moral laws require a transcendent lawmaker, God. Saying the world is supposed to be a certain way requires a sposer. God, this is terrible. So to speak. Someone who intended the world to be much better than it is. Okay, so right off the bat, I hate this word sposer. I mean, it's fine to say, I suppose, in colloquial speech and everything, but to call it a sposer, I don't know, like gag, barf, all of that kind of stuff. But I don't see why the notion of we as humans can apply the label evil to some kind of behavior. Again, it's just a label, like saying that something is helpful or something is dangerous. Like there's not a thing out there. There's not a force out there that is the force of helpfulness or the force of danger. It's a label we apply to certain behavior. I don't know why that requires objective morality. We can see people suffering. We can see people harmed. There doesn't have to be an objective way the world is working for us to have this kind of empathetic gaze on other people. And really, you have to have buy-in to the notion that the world is broken and that the world was intended to be a certain way, which I didn't have from that first paragraph we were looking at. So I don't buy into this at all. This is the way the world works. It's not broken. There's nothing, quote unquote, wrong with it. It's just bad things happen. People do bad things. I mean, there are things like sociopaths, and there are people who do bad things for other reasons, who enjoy creating harm. But that's because we evolved in this animalistic way, because we are animals at the end of the day. All right, let's keep going. I can't touch on every single element of this. There's just so much wrong, like fractal wrongness. So Koukl goes on. If there is no God, then there is no transcendent moral lawmaker. If no lawmaker, then no universal moral laws we're all obligated to obey. If no moral laws, then no broken laws. If no broken laws, then no problem of evil. Simply put, then, if there is no God, there can be no evil or good, for that matter. So question one, where are these universal moral laws we're all obligated to obey? They don't exist. There's none of them out there. There's no absolute law that we've all, across all space and time, agreed upon and just know intuitively. You can't come up with that. So you can't say that there are universal laws. Your intuition is one thing, but when you go talk to other people, they have different ideas. A lot of times Christians like to go with some really extreme points like torturing a baby for fun, and that everybody seems to agree is bad, but they don't agree on things like, when is it okay to kill someone in general? Like, if in self-defense, is that okay? Et cetera, et cetera. They don't entertain these gray areas and all of that, which our law, by the way, does. Our secular law. It entertains various shades of when somebody does something wrong. Okay, I'm not saying the law is perfect, but it does entertain something different, and it doesn't decree that this is all universal and we all understand. So there's no universal moral law, and there is no evil, as in sort of this Platonic form of evil or a Platonic form of good. These are not forces, things. I don't know how you even want to describe them. They're descriptors. Behavior can be good, it can be bad, it can get so bad, it can be evil. I think I'm belaboring that point, but it seems like a very important point to make, and Christians seem to want to think of good and evil as these things that exist, forces, or like it's like they're electricity or something. I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they're conceptualizing them. It's just a descriptor. Moving on. Koukl writes, yet there is a problem of evil. We all know this. Oh, we do? Koukl, do tell. So there must be broken laws. So there must be laws. So there must be a transcendent law maker. So there must be a God. This is just all wrong, wrong, wrong. You're not describing the problem of evil correctly. We don't know that there are universal laws. This is tiresome. Let's move on. So Koukl writes, if you want the philosophic mumbo jumbo, philosophic, is that the way to say it? Philosophical? All right, whatever. He wrote philosophic. I don't care. Here it is. This approach is classically called the moral argument for God's existence. Stated as a syllogism, it looks like this. Oh my God, how much pretension. Okay. Premise 1, if there is no God, then there is no objective morality. No lawmaker, then no laws. Premise 2, but there is objective morality evidenced by the problem of evil. Conclusion, therefore there is a God. I mean, I've already talked about all of these points, but we don't see an objective morality. Across space and time, people have different ideas about morality. We've talked about it ad infinitum on this channel, and I could point to the Bible and show there are things in the Old Testament that seemed a-okay to this God that we now object to. So even the Bible shows that we don't, across time, have this obvious objective morality. And then again, the problem of evil is not evidence of an objective morality. The problem of evil is, again, triomni God, why suffer? That's it, you know? All right, so trash from start to finish. And then Greg Koukl states, the form of the syllogism is valid, modus tollens, and the premises are true. Therefore, the argument is sound. I guess you can just say that, right? I mean, philosophers are out there laughing their asses off right now at the fact that this sentence exists in the world attached to the argument that he just gave. So yeah, Greg Koukl, good job. And by good job, I mean you suck. All right, we're moving on to the second argument. Koukl writes, my second favorite argument for God's existence is a little easier. It has a fancy name, the Kalam Cosmological Argument, but it's really easy to understand. By the way, a cosmological argument is any argument for God's existence that's based on the mere existence of the cosmos, the universe. Wow, the pretension and condescension is just flowing today, isn't it? Anyway, I love the addition of this mere. The mere existence that stuff exists is enough to say, yeah, God, mere existence. And I'm wondering if Koukl thinks the cosmos and the universe are different, because my understanding is we do have a difference, that the universe is what we see as everything, quote unquote, everything, and the cosmos could potentially be something like a multiverse or something more than our universe. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk about the Kalam. This is a shorter section, thankfully. Doesn't mean it's any better than the former one. But anyway, here we go. Here's the basic idea, Koukl writes. First, for anything that came into existence, there must have been something that caused it to come into existence. Clearly, effects have causes, pretty basic and entirely consistent with our common sense experience of the world. Second, the material universe, the cosmos, came into existence sometime in the past. Virtually everyone affirms this point because of the widespread and, I think, justified belief in the Big Bang. Good on you, Greg Koukl, for accepting the Big Bang. I guess Koukl is not one of these young Earth creationists anyway. So anyway, the conclusion. Therefore, the material universe must have had a cause. So I do have to point out that this, pretty basic and entirely consistent with our common sense experience of the world that Koukl adds to the first premise. Well, first of all, this pretty basic, I think, is there, so it makes it seem like, this is really easy to understand, and, don't go worrying your pretty little heads about anything more than that. But just because you have a common sense experience of the current presentation of our world doesn't mean that those laws apply in other places of our universe or other times. So this is not a good scientific way to go about explaining this. I guess this is what I'm saying. We don't know that everything that comes into existence has to have a cause. From my understanding, and my understanding is not great, but on the quantum level, there are these particles that pop into existence, and we don't seem to think they have a cause. And there are a few other things that don't seem to have a cause. And since things are always moving, at least in our universe, things are always becoming something else. Molecules are always reconfiguring or, changing circumstances or something like that. But just to use your common sense experience of the world, that isn't a great way to think about how the early Earth worked or how the start of the universe came to be. So basically, we just don't know about this first premise. Does everything that comes into existence have to have a cause? We don't know. The second one, the cosmos is different from the universe, and so the fact that our universe came into existence says nothing about the cosmos. We don't know, actually, that the cosmos came into existence in the past. That's basically the point. So we don't know, in the conclusion, that the material universe had to have a cause. We just don't know. So then Koukl goes on, put most simply, a big bang needs a big banger. Oh my gosh, seriously? I hate this. World needs a worder, and buildings need a builder, and sandstone needs a sandstoner. Whatever. The bang didn't bang itself. Yeah, award-winning writer Greg Koukl, y'all. The bang didn't bang itself. Note, by the way, that this line of thinking puts the cause of the cosmos outside of the material universe. So the cause would have to be immaterial, intelligent, powerful, and personal, since only persons can start a causal chain of events. Okay, so we need some citations on this. The cause of the cosmos outside of the material universe, where did you get that? How do you know that the cause would have to be immaterial, intelligent, powerful, and personal? And how do you know that only persons, can start a causal chain of events? We don't know that. You are asserting that. I mean, it could just be like the way lava turns into pumice stone or something like that, that our universe formed because that's all it could do under those chemical conditions. It could totally have been an unintelligent reason for starting. The thing that caused it could have just been a physical circumstance, like the way clouds form. I can do other things like that. Things form into other things. Nobody's there to go, poof, you're a cloud now. It just doesn't work that way. So Greg Koukl goes on. This argument doesn't prove the God of the Bible, of course. Checks out. But it gets us pretty close, and it's a great springboard to other arguments and other evidences for Christianity. Sure, Jan, sounds good to me. More evidences. Ugh. More evidence. Other pieces of evidence. Please, award-winning writer and best-selling author or whatever you wrote in your bio, please write better. That's all I'm saying. So there we go. 2 bad arguments for God, misunderstanding what the problem of evil is, not understanding the potentiality of science to explain our universe with something other than an intelligent and powerful force that must be the Yahweh of the Bible and happen to be, a God that cares about who you sleep with and if you wear mixed fabrics or whatever other good stuff is in like the book of Leviticus. What struck you about this? I can't get to everything, there are always points that we can't get to in these videos. So what struck you? Put it in the comments below. I love to read your comments. And while you're down there, you know the drill. Do all the YouTube stuffing that you haven't already done. And then Algorithm and his consort, Algorithm, will bless you by giving you all kinds of shit in your YouTube feed. Yes, I'm experiencing a lot of old stuff in my YouTube feed these days. I don't know about you all. But, it is what it is. YouTube, y'all. Have fun. Enjoy. What a playground, right? And if you like what I do, you can always buy me a coffee. Here is a QR code with my little kitties for you to buy me a coffee if you're so inclined. And if not, that's fine too. Just put a comment down there. That's all you need to do. Love to read your comments, as I've said. I'm not sure what argument is up next. There's somebody that said that the ontological argument is pretty bad, and I agree. Kind of just defining God into existence by saying, perfect beings have to exist, and God is perfect, and so if he didn't exist, he wouldn't be perfect. It's a beautiful thing, and by beautiful I mean like total crap. So yeah, it's gonna be stupid, right? Yeah. So I'll see you then. Bye for now.